We have 5 speakers, L, M, X, Y, Z. L, M, X, Y, Z. It says there's each speaker will exactly 1 speech, which is nice because then we have everyone goes once, either G or R, right? When they said that, I wrote this. I said, oh, we have G or R, and we either have a speech at 1 or a speech at 2. So I was thinking something like this. But because of the timing, because of the 1-2 thing, and then eventually a 3 p.m. thing, I stopped and I said, hold on, nothing wrong with this setup, but in general, I'm going to favor ordering going left to right. So I shifted it so that this was 1, 2, 3. Right? And so, Kelly, you all right with that?
Yeah.
It's not, there's no logical reason for switching it. Both they're logically the same, but it's just a matter of what I'm comfortable with, in the sense that I'm more comfortable with ordering things going left to right than up and down.
That makes sense. I'm just trying to distinguish why then in general grouping games are vertical and like which, I mean.
Oh, because a lot of times the groups are also ordered.
Okay.
Like the group is in some sort of order. Like if you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those are your groups. You're trying to figure out who's going on Monday, who's going on Tuesday, who's going on Wednesday, but they're also in that order.
Also, you could look at the first question, which is like the easy question.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, when you don't know how to order it, you could just look at the number 8.
So they decided to do it that way. Yeah, and sometimes the formatting of the first question is not helpful, but in this case, since it doesn't matter and this is consistent with that, it's going to make it a little easier to answer that question. Not that it has to be that way, but certainly, yeah. So now we know there's a 1 at 2 and 1 at 1 for both of these, and we don't know who has the 3 p.m. slot, right? Okay. Then it says M is earlier than L and in the same room. So M comes before L, and to signal that they're like on the same row, I just did that. I mean, just something to say, look, I got to keep them in the same row. Neither X nor Y is earlier than Z. Now this is a little tricky. Neither X nor Y can come before Z. So this sort of thing is not going to happen, right? A lot of times we interpret that to mean that X and Y come after Z, but that doesn't have to be the case here. They could come together, right? So what I was thinking is either Z is going to come before both of them, or Z is going to be with one of them, with the other one coming after, right? You could keep drawing this. You could also do Z with X going back and forth before Y. I had to do the arc because we don't know what room they're in, right? Or you could just kind of keep this in mind. But if you want to draw it out, that's technically the drawing. Okay. Then it says, if L is in the G, then X and Z are in the R. So if L is up here, then that means that X and Z are in the R. If X and Z are in the R, we do know that X or Z comes before X, so I would write it like that. Right? Like, not only are they going to be down here, but they're going to be in that order. Okay, do we have any floaters? L, M, X, Y, Z? Nope. Okay, questions on the setup. Did anyone create worlds for this game?
I tried.
Tried on the basis of?
ML going in 1 or 2.
Yeah. What challenge did you run into?
I was worried about the 3rd spot because then you have some uncertainty as to, which one will go there. I mean, it could be Z, it could be X, it could be Y, it could be,
Could be L.
Could be L also.
Yeah, like if you had ML and 2 and 3.
Right.
I started going down the similar path and I was like, oh shoot, I think I'm going to have to do 4.
Yeah,
or even maybe even 5, because you could do M in 1 and L in 3. I was like,
yeah,
shoot.
I didn't even think about
So
that
I just abandoned it. But
yeah, I abandoned it at some point too.
That's okay, it's worth a thought. Which questions do we want to do together?
9 and 13.
10, 9, and 13. Okay. Let's start with 10 since that's an if question. If X is at 3, which I find cannot be true. So 10, if X is at 3, So x is the last one, right? We don't know which one it is, but it forces everything else to come up here. Now the one thing that's nice about the worlds that you started to create, Kelly, is that maybe you would realize, hey, if x is in the third slot, I don't know whether it's, you know what, let me just clarify this by saying x is either here or here. It's in this row or column, I should say, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about this nice about your worlds that you mentioned is that ML has to be together, and now we know that ML is not going to be in third.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either ML or ML.
Yeah.
And I might just do something like this. You could create both worlds, but it might be easier just to do that. Right, because it's going to go back and forth, and the other two variables are set. They're not going to change. What are the other two variables? Yep. Y. Is that Z? You mean Z? But
Z.
yeah, Z is Z, but then Y.
Yeah, sorry, what?
Yeah. Okay. So, and we know that Z has to come before Y. So these basically are going back and forth, and X is going back and forth, except in one exception. What's this rule right here? You got to watch out for this rule, right? If L is up here, then X is going to have to come down here. But if ML is down here, then X could be going back and forth. Because that rule doesn't matter when L is in the R. Okay. Which one fine cannot be true? L's speech is in the same room as Y? No. How do we feel about this? Good?
It makes sense.
It makes sense? Okay. Alright, cool. What was the other one? 13 and 9?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do 9 first, because 13 is like that weird question. Not that there's anything wrong with weird questions, but I would do that last anyways. Which one of the following pairs of speeches cannot be given at the same time? So same time is column or row?
Same time as column.
It's okay. It's late at night. So by this, I mean column.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so cannot be in the same column together. Well, ML would be a great answer. Of course, they don't have that. How about, let's just start at the top. Y, or LY. Could LY be at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've seen it happen before. This is why, it can be valuable to do the if questions first. Okay, LY could go together, so that is not correct. Because we're looking for what cannot be true. How about LZ? Well, that didn't happen here. Is there any way that I could get L and Z in the same time? Like if I moved Z over here, would that help with things?
No.
At least not in this situation, right? Can we do any better than that in terms of could we have L be any earlier?
No.
No, I mean the earliest L can be is 2, and if I push Z to 2, then I have to put Y and X in 3. Not gonna work. So even though we're just hijacking, yeah.
With the rule, with the last conditional statement.
The last conditional
If
statement.
L speech is in goal.
Yep. Okay. If L is in this row,
Right.
then Z and X have to be in R.
Okay.
Are you thinking that this is related to this question?
I don't know. Right now.
I don't know that we necessarily need that rule to answer this question because L and Z can never be at the same time because if you try to put L and Z together, they'd have to be in 2. Like you couldn't put L and Z together in 1, right? Because L can never be in 1. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't put L and Z together in 3 because you can only have 1 in 3. So if L and Z were ever to be together, they'd have to be together in 2. But the problem is if you put L here and Z here or vice versa, Y and X are going to have to go in 3, and we can only have 1 in 3. Yeah, thanks.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Not all the way. There's something that I'm missing. I don't know. There is a gap.
Okay, are you cool with the fact that L and Z could not go together in 1?
Yeah.
How
I
come?
know, right. M has to come before.
M has to come before. Are you cool with the fact that L and Z could not be together in 3?
Yep,
How come?
because the ZXY rule, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have X and Y coming after it. The other problem is you can't have 2 and 3, right? You can only have 1 and 3. Okay, so if they come together, they'd have to come together here, which looks kind of okay on the surface. You put M here, L there. The problem is if you put Z there,
Oh,
Y and X come after, right?
see, I'm sorry, it's just late, I guess.
No, that's cool. That does not work because then we have 2 and 3. Good to draw it out. And by the way, if you did draw this out on the test, you'd want to cross it out because you don't want to look back at it as a valid diagram. All right, 13. Which one following is substituted for the constraint that neither X nor Y can be given earlier than Z? So we're getting rid of this funky rule, whoop, and we're trying to have the exact same effect on the rules. The wrong answers are going to be too strong or too weak or both. So what I mean by that is that if you're going to find a rule that perfectly replaces the old rule, then it cannot impose restrictions that weren't there before, and it cannot allow things to happen that couldn't happen before. In other words, it has to be the perfect replacement. If it's a dictator that's too strong, you know, it's a new ruler that's too strong, then it's wrong, or if it's too weak, it's not good enough. So, answer choice A, L must be at 3. I was like, way too strong.
Yeah.
Right? Sure, L could have been at 2 before, so this is imposing a restraint that wasn't there before. This is not a good replacement. We need a perfect replacement. Goldilocks. B, M's speech cannot be earlier than Z's. So, M cannot be earlier than Z. That was true before. M could not have been earlier than Z's. So, is this a good replacement?
No,
No.
Why not?
yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with X and Y.
Okay, so if M is not earlier than Z, then that means Z has to be in 1. Could it be in 2? Under this rule, it could be. That's the problem, because if under answer choice B, if M and Z were together in 2, which they could be according to this rule, L would have to go in 3 because L comes after M, and X and Y would come before Z, violating the rule that said X and Y have to come after Z. So this answer choice B, is too weak. It's not strong enough of an answer to replace the original rules. All right, D or C. Either X or Y must be after Z. Why is this too strong?
Because they could be at the same time.
They could be at the same time. So this is too strong of a dictator coming in. Just think of it that way. Dictator comes in. Is it too strong of a dictator or too weak? Does it have enough power? Not enough. Either X or Y must be at 2. Okay. Does it have to be true that at least one of them was at 2 before?
It can be, in fact. Like I can put MXL or MX or something, right?
I think that at least one of them did have to be 2 before. But even though one of them is at 2, does that necessarily force Z to come with or before them?
No.
No, Z could be in 3rd. You could have, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
You could,
yeah, I was meaning MY, yeah.
You could have like Y, X, and then Z, and then you've satisfied this rule because you have at least one of them at 2, but you're violating the previous rule. Yeah, cool. E, Z speech must be at 1. If it's at 1, then yes, X and Y are either going to be with or after it. My only concern with this answer is it too strong, right? But Z could never be at 2 before, so it's fine. It's not imposing a restriction that wasn't there before.
Okay.
Because if you put Z at 2 before, you would run into the problem of
Yeah.
X and Y coming after it, which you can't have 2 at 3.
Cool. Thank
Yep.
you.
Of course. Any other questions on that one?
So it has to be strong enough.
Has to be strong enough, but not too strong. Has to be a perfect replacement. Yeah. Okay.
So tonight, sorry, excuse me, is the deadline for